Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 6 player game Last Defense, designed by Prospero Hall and published by Funko Games, who helped sponsor this video. If space aliens attacked your city, sure, you might let the military deal with that. But what if a junk blob, spider robots, giant tentacles, and sentient plants were also threatening your town? I mean, at a certain point, enough's enough. It's time to take matters into your own hands. So join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. To set up, first place the board in the center of the play area. Above the board, put these 5 threat tiles face down with their matching movers nearby. These are the threats that you'll be fighting. These here are the various tool cards which you'll shuffle and then place face down into the space for them here on the board. These are the double-sided scientist and Rubble tokens. You'll now mix them all up face down and then randomly place one Rubble token on top of each scientist. These are called token stacks, and it will look something like this when you're done. Now each player picks one of the game's characters, taking their tile and figure, returning any unused ones back to the box. Then every player puts their figure into this plaza space found in the center of the board. Now download and launch the Last Defense app like I've done here, and just keep in mind there could be some updates or changes to this app depending on when you're watching this video. But after selecting New Game, you should see a prompt like this that asks you to confirm that you're set up and ready to go. You can also select whether you want to play a beginner or experienced game, but we'll pick the beginner level and then tap Next. You'll get a bit of story here, which I will turn down for now, but this will tell the players about the attack beginning in their city and also tell you the places where you'll need to put the first 5 token stacks, which I've now missed because I turned the volume down. Thankfully, there is a replay button here in case you miss anything the first time because you're busy recording a tutorial video and talked over it. So that's a handy feature. The board is made up of several named spaces. So listen to the app because now it's going to tell you where some trapped scientists are located, and you'll put these token stacks into those spots. Let's hear what they say for this setup.
We have people trapped at these locations. The bank, the hospital, the megastore, the factory, and the shopping mall.
Once you've set the token stacks in their correct positions, just confirm that by tapping here, and then start the timer. This will give you one last chance to confirm that you're ready, and it tells you that to win, you'll need to defeat 4 threats. When you're ready, tap the green Y to start. Before you do that though, give the person with the next birthday the dice as they will go first, and then start the timer. And that's the setup. In Last Defense, because all the first responders are overwhelmed dealing with the invasion, you've been called in to help beat back the invaders. So as players, you'll be working together to rescue the trapped scientists from around the city, who will then be able to find the weaknesses of each monster so they can be defeated. During the game, the app will be running, and along with its timer, every now and then it will announce actions that the monsters will take, which you'll need to follow. You'll have 20 minutes to defeat all of them, or the city will be lost. The game is played over a series of turns, starting with the first player and then going clockwise around and around the table. And on your turn, you'll perform a few steps. And all of those are outlined here on your player tile, starting with rolling the dice. Here, the current player rolls both the tools and move die. If you don't like what you get, you can re-roll, but you must re-roll both the dice and then keep the new result. Then you look at the tools die and draw that number of cards from the tools deck. If this deck ever runs out, then you flip any cards that are in the discard pile over into a new deck and keep drawing as necessary. The game is fully cooperative, so you should leave the tools you draw face up on the table for everyone to see. And we'll learn how to use these tools in just a moment. Now look at your move die, and you can move your figure up to that number of spaces one at a time between locations connected by a line. You can even move 0 spaces in order to just stay put. Let's say we decided to go here though, because we can move 1, 2 spaces. Then at the end of your move, if you're in a space with one or more of these token stacks, you flip the Rubble tokens face up, but you leave the scientist underneath face down. These tokens show the tools required to clear that rubble away and free the scientist underneath. If, after finishing your move, you have the tools that match a rubble token in your space, you can discard them, which means you place them into this area of the board here. Then you return the rubble token to the box and collect the scientist. Scientists are placed face up on your character tile here. You can collect any number of scientists during the game, but sometimes, instead of a scientist, this will show a helicopter on the other side. You also keep these on your board, and at any time on your turn during the game, you can discard a helicopter back to the box in order to move directly to any location. We'll see later how more of these token stacks can be added to the board, and sometimes you'll have more than one stack in a single space. So I should mention that after moving, if you have the tools for it, you can remove more than one rubble token from a single space. So in a situation like this, if I also had all of these tools, I could discard them and then remove these two tokens. Then both of these scientists would be revealed and I'd collect them as well. Okay, you hear that? We're getting a news break interruption, so let me just pause it. Now, when these occur, you'll stop and listen to the message. This will announce a new threat appearing in the city and tell you where to place it, or it will tell you to move a threat that's already in play to a new location. So let's see what this one's going to tell us.
We interrupt the previous report to bring you the news that giant tentacles have been seen emerging at the gardens. Repeat, giant tentacles.
Okay, so we've been told that giant tentacles are going to appear in the garden. Now, when you get these kind of announcements when you're playing, you don't pause the app, you just follow the instructions that it gives you. When a new threat enters the game, flip its tile face up, and then put its mover on the announced location. Now, whether a new threat is just entering the game or it's moving to a new space because the app has instructed you to move it, you'll then add one of these token stacks from beside the board to that same space. If you ever run out of these stacks, then you don't add one. Now, in this case, we don't have a player at this location, but let's pretend one had been here. When a threat is added or moved to a space with a player, that player must put any scientists they have into that space, though they'll keep any helicopter tiles that they have. Then any players in that location must move their figure to this rest area space. The next time they move, they'll be able to leave here, go into the plaza, and continue as normal. After resolving any of the effects from a threat announcement, you then immediately continue your turn as normal. Once a threat is on the board, it will slow down your progress because you can't move into a space with a threat unless you have a flare to discard. For example, if I wanted to go here, I could toss this out and then I'd be able to enter the threat's space. Now, if you enter a space with any face-up scientists, immediately pick them up and add them to your tile. Now, once you're in a space with a threat, you can stay there. If I didn't want to leave here on my next turn, that's okay. I don't need to discard another flare. It would only be if I left this space and then wanted to go back in that I would need to spend another flare. There is one other way you can enter a space with a threat. Every character has a location that is special to them. For example, for the on-call nurse, it's the hospital as shown here. And this means that character can always enter the hospital space even if a threat is there and they do not have to spend a flare. Okay, so to recap, on your turn, you'll roll the dice, and you can re-roll them if you want. You then draw a number of tools equal to your tool die and move up to a number of spaces on your move die. You then reveal any rubble tokens in the space you've gone to, and if you have tools to remove the rubble, you can, and then you collect the scientist there. Then the next step of your turn is to trade a tool. You can only do this if another player is in your space, but then you can either give them one of your tools or take one tool from them. But you can only pick one of those options and only do it once per turn. Whether you traded a tool or not, next you discard down to 5 tools. There's no limit to the number of tools you can be carrying during your turn, but now you have to get rid of tools until you only have 5. Sending those extras to the discard pile. Then you'll want to quickly pass the dice to the player on your left, and they'll take their turn. And around it will go with players taking turns, pausing only to add or move threats on the board as indicated by the app. But during all of this, you're trying to gather scientists so you can defeat the threats. And as time goes on, the app will add more and more of these threats onto the game board for you to deal with. Now, each of these threats will show you two different types of scientists that are required to defeat it. For example, to deal with the giant tentacles, you're going to need a biologist and an engineer. Anytime you end your move in the plaza, you will then move any scientists from your tile into that space. As soon as all of the scientists needed to defeat a monster are in the plaza, like we see here, you immediately move them to that threat tile, which would be above the board normally, and then return that threat and these tiles back to the box. It has been defeated, and you'll go into the app and tap here, and then identify the threat that has been removed. Then confirm here that you're sure. Once all the threats have been defeated, the players all win together. But if you don't defeat them before the time runs out, then you all lose. So you have to work quickly and efficiently together as a team. And after you've beaten the beginner level, you can then try the experienced level. But otherwise, that's how you play Last Defense. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. But until next time, thanks for watching.